You are listening to Claret and Blue, an Aston Villa podcast brought to you by Birmingham Live.
Hello and welcome back to the Claret and Blue podcast with another physical human being for the first time since March.
It's bizarre, isn't it?
This is weird.
Stepping into somebody's house and being greeted with a sanitizer as if I'm a kind of dirty animal going through a sheep dip.
I do feel like we need a plastic screen or something here just in case. If we get too animated.
Big cuddle curtains.
Yeah,
see those? Yeah. One of them so we can embrace.
I don't want to touch you. Steady on.
I'm going in, forget it.
Have you got over the fact that Villa are still a Premier League club? I feel like I'm going to ask you this for the next couple of weeks now because I'm still not over it.
I don't ever want to be over it, to be honest. I don't, you know, what we said, it's kind of a normal service resume now. So it's bizarre, isn't it? Because it's not a reason in itself to celebrate, but I think I tweeted last night that Villa have actually finished 8 places above. In the football pyramid, they finished 8 places above where they finished last season. So I'm saying, if you do that next season and the season after, it means champions. So it's
steady on.
I'm not getting carried away, but it's progress, isn't it? And
it is.
You know, I don't think there should be kind of champagne corks popping or open top bus parades, but considering that Villa needed kind of miracles, snookers, whatever it was to get out of that situation, I think we're allowed to bask.
Yeah, of course.
Bask for a few days more.
Yeah, I tweeted the screenshot of the document I put together, actual notes as well for a podcast. This is unheard of for this channel for anyone who's been watching.
Do you want to publish those?
I know, that's what I mean. I had to tweet it just to prove that I'd done some notes. But when you look at the red and the red and the yellow before lockdown of just defeat, draw, defeat, and then at the end you've got a couple of greens at the end for wins and a couple of draws. It was then or never, wasn't it? And we'll get on to how it all unfolded later on in the podcast, but it still feels like it was a miracle. 7 points adrift at one stage.
I was watching, obviously we were all watching the match on Sunday, and Robbie Savage had to have a little bit of bitter blue nose punditry before the start. Somebody saying how Villa have improved since lockdown. He was saying, well, they haven't really improved since lockdown. They've improved.
They've only improved in the last 3 games.
Beat Arsenal, which is fine, but it's all about timing, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's better to have improved when you had to rather than at the start and then fall apart.
That's it, yeah, exactly. So, it's nice to see that little bit of green that represents wins. Green shoots of recovery.
Yeah, not many, but enough.
It's enough, isn't it? Yeah, it's enough.
So for this podcast, we're going to kind of have a bit of a debrief and look at the season as a whole, because it kind of feels like the playoff winning season, that it kind of felt like 2 seasons. You've got the Steve Bruce part and then the Dean Smith part. You've got the pre-lockdown part and the post-lockdown part. It feels like a totally different season when you look back at the results. I asked you yesterday when I was putting this research together, when did you think that Kevin Friend thing happened at Crystal Palace? And I kind of felt it was like Christmas time for some reason. I don't know why.
The fact that you asked me that,
it's just weird.
I know you were thinking something stupid.
It was August. It's like, that feels such a long time ago that it doesn't feel like this season. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it has skewed it slightly. It's probably peculiar to you. Everybody else has probably still got some kind of grasp on reality. But
I'd fully lost it at that point. So
yeah, it definitely does seem like BC, as in before coronavirus, and AD after Douglas Luiz's remarkable recovery. Slightly contrived,
just a bit. Should we start with the summer transfer business then? And we'll touch on the whole. So basically, this podcast is this season. We're going to do another episode which is going to look ahead to what we need to do for next season. So I think we'll kind of deconstruct what worked and what didn't in that episode. But generally speaking, 12 in. How did you feel at the time? Because we didn't start the podcast till November, and I wasn't even working here until September. So the whole start of the season, our opinions aren't on record anyway. So what were we thinking at the time?
Christ knows. I think that looking back, probably excitement that Villa are in the Premier League and that they seem to have a recruitment policy that was looking to the future, that was signing players which we hope would have either value to Aston Villa over a longer time frame or would have a sell-on value. I think at the back of my mind, hopefully I'm not reinventing this, hopefully this is what I thought then rather than with the benefit of hindsight. I remember the summer recruitment of Paddy Riley, Hendrik Almstad, Tom Fox and Tim Sherwood that led to relegation, and there are all these kind of exotic new names. You were thinking, crikey, you know, they've been tearing it up in a league lesser than the Premier League. Let's see what they can do on the Premier League stage. So there's always that kind of at the back of my mind. You know, it's all very well having excited, talented players. How are they going to gel as a unit? You hope that the core of Mings, McGinn, Grealish would be enough to kind of mould them together. But I think it was excitement. I think I was kind of blinded by a big. You know, we all get. It's like Christmas, isn't it? When a transfer comes along. So if you've got 12 presents under the tree rather than just a couple, I think we're all got a little bit carried away. And I'm hoping that, like that team that got relegated in 2015-16, individually, a lot of them have proved to be very good players. So I'm hoping that will be the case. But the improvement and the kind of, you know, the year-long slog of a Premier League relegation battle has actually made them better for the experience rather than us sharpening them all up. Sharpening Douglas Luiz up so he can go back to Manchester City, sharpening Jack Grealish with another year on the clock so he can. I'm hoping that Villa reap the benefits of what's been a real kind of a tough battle of a year.
Yeah, like I say, we'll kind of deconstruct the ins and outs in the recruitment part of the podcast that we do. When you look at August, you've played 5. I've included cup games in that. So there's 1 cup game versus Crewe, 4 Premier League games. You look at that, and with 1 win in the league and 3 defeats, on paper, you think that's pretty bad. Whereas you look at the fixtures, we were leading against Tottenham.
Yeah,
you got an early penalty against Bournemouth, and Douglas Luiz does a little step over and they scored 2. The Crystal Palace game was August. That should have been a draw.
Yeah.
So on paper, on reflection, that's not a bad start to the Premier League, and I think there was still reasons for optimism back then.
I think there was, and I think, again, looking at it with the benefit of a year to review it now, it's almost
knowing the outcome that we stay up, so 3 defeats doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's almost as if kind of that first game is kind of the opposite effect of what happened over the season, whereas Villa started well in that game and then had a sucker punch and lost late on, whereas we've had the opposite, haven't we? It's kind of been a slog, it's been a slog, and then kind of pulled survival from the jaws of relegation. I think the thing that encouraged me about the first month is that Villa looked competitive in games.
Yeah,
I thought the Bournemouth game, for probably an hour, 70 minutes of that game, was probably as strong a performance as we mustered during the first half of the season.
Yeah.
Obviously, it was an early indicator that this team could shoot itself in the foot. Even Tom Heaton, who went on to become kind of one of the more responsible, kind of mature performers, you know, threw one in, didn't he?
Yeah.
Threw a mistake in that day. But yeah, I think it encouraged me that Villa aren't going to get turned over or battered out of sight on many occasions. That can be competitive, and I think for the most part that was the case. I think Villa, even when they're on a drastic run of defeats, there weren't too many times when they weren't in games at some stage. Yeah,
there was periods where we had started the podcast around Christmas time, I think, and even though we were, I don't know whether we were in the bottom 3 at that point, we were still saying, oh yeah, but we're in most games. We still feel like we're not far away from getting results here. So it wasn't kind of, there was no in comparison to the year that we went down. There was never a period this season up until as very recent as the Man United game where we thought, oh, that's it, it's over. You always thought, well, there's still something where Villa might pull it out of the bag here. So yeah, you do look at that month and think, well, we've kind of, like you say, shot ourselves in the foot against Bournemouth. We beat Everton in a great night out at Villa Park. And then the Kevin Friend thing happens in Palace. So on reflection, that's not a bad start to the season. No,
like I said, I think it showed that Villa had arrived. It showed that there was some talent in the ranks. With, I remember being probably more impressed than I am over the course of the season. But Freddie Gilbert, I thought we've got a player who's got a real athlete, and he seemed to get it. He seemed to get the kind of the English mentality, if you like. He seemed to be a warrior. Yeah. And there were little signs like that you thought, actually, we've got a chance. I mean, Wesley was still getting pelters quite early doors, but I thought he turned up on that night against Everton. Yeah. Bullied defenders, scored a goal, ran his socks off, put his body on the line. So they're just kind of things. I think at that stage, when there's still so much of the season to be played, you do cling for the positives. I think when you get halfway through the season and you've got a body of evidence before you think, oh crap.
And also, if we'd had gone down, we'd probably be looking at that going, if we'd have just beat Bournemouth then, if this didn't happen, But because we know that the ending of the story is Villa stay up on last day, it's like, oh well, it doesn't matter. In September, you've got only one win, and that was the cup game against Brighton. But the main kind of standout fixture there is that Arsenal game. That was the kind of turning point where you think, if we just hold on to these games where we go ahead, Tottenham, Arsenal, you've got Villa go 1-0 up through McGinn, Arsenal get a red card in the first half, and you don't win that game, and that's when you start thinking, okay, maybe Villa don't have what it takes to cut it in this league.
Yeah, I mean that game particularly was a a bitter one to swallow, as we've had to with several times when Villa forced the issue against the better teams and then just kind of crumbled.
Yeah.
The thing that I took from that one was, I think by then as well, even in the other games, we thought, we'd heard this talk about Jack Grealish. Is he good enough? He's like a kind of 15-year-old kid playing against a bunch of 8-year-olds in the Championship. But when he steps up to the Premier League, how will he cope with the big boys? And I think, just that Arsenal game, he was just kind of drifting past players if they weren't there. And I think people were starting to suddenly kind of realise that, yes, as Villa fans, we're biased. We've built up Jack Grealish to be this kind of Messiah-like figure, but actually he's a bit decent, isn't he? I think people forgot, because Villa have been out of the Premier League for 3 years.
Yeah, everyone else, yeah.
The wider world didn't realise kind of quite how good he was. So I think, although we weren't picking up points then, how many games did we play? We only played 2 league games in September.
3. We drew to West Ham, lost to Arsenal, and then drew to Burnley.
The Burnley one was a shocker as well, wasn't it?
There was a VAR thing in that as well, wasn't there?
Yeah, I think so. Didn't we throw away a lead, didn't we? Throw away a 2-goal lead?
Possibly.
We should know this, shouldn't we?
Yeah, I should have done enough research. And I've done research for some games, but I know there was the VAR thing in the Arsenal game with the handball that wasn't given in the 88th minute or something, and you think, obviously you only would have got a penalty and we might have missed anyway, but that gives you the opportunity to get a point there that you hope you could have got. We had the Crystal Palace thing 2 weeks before.
Yeah.
Then something else happened in the Burnley game, but I've not done the research to remember what. But I thought maybe because we drew that game that VAR decision didn't matter in the end because it wasn't drop points.
Yeah, I wouldn't expose our ignorance and our lack of research by dwelling too much on that.
Yeah, good point.
But again, it felt like a missed opportunity on the day.
And at this point of the season, you're now looking at it thinking, okay, we won 1 game in 7 or 8.
Yeah.
And we're starting to throw games away.
I think at that stage, it's a relegation battle where you probably believe the hype throughout June, July and early August that, Villa can finish 12th, 14th comfortably.
Yeah, because the start of the season goes both ways, doesn't it? We had the year under Lambert when we were unbeaten in 4 or something. You think, here we go, and then it still turns into a terrible season. So that you're never going to judge it too much from the start. But by the time the end of September comes and you're 18th with 1 win in the league, you do think, okay, this is going to be difficult. Yeah,
it was definitely. I think that Burnley game, just that you got the feeling that kind of it's going to be a slog. This is, and so it proved.
We've got the cup going on at this point, the League Cup. How did you think of that at the time? Because obviously we got the Wolves game in the Cup in October, which obviously we won because we got to the final. Spoiler alert. But were you kind of in the mindset of, this is a distraction or this is something to go for?
It's horrible, because I'm quite old-fashioned and traditional in terms of a kind of, there's only so many prizes that you can go for. You should be going all out to win whatever you can. But I kind of, because the start of the Cup coincided with you thinking, this is going to be a real battle. Probably was a secondary thing, to be honest.
Especially in the early stages of the competition as well. You rotate in the team a lot, aren't you? And you're playing Crew 6-1 is a game you'd expect to win. Brighton we beat, and then you beat Wolves. And I think probably after that Wolves game, is that the quarter-final after that stage? I think you start thinking, okay, well maybe this is something we can take seriously now. Yeah,
I think it starts to open up then. But at that stage, I feel a bit of a sellout for saying it. I feel it's a bit of a kind of modern fan thing to think about Premier League and nothing. But I think as we've found all the way through the season, we know how important Premier League is just for the kind of the infrastructure of the football club, the quality of players that you can keep, the quality of players that you can attract.
Yeah.
So it took precedent.
Well, we're jumping ahead a bit, because if we'd have gone down but got to the League Cup final, it's irrelevant, isn't it? Even if we'd have won the thing, it'd have been great to win a major competition. But in terms of the like you say, the infrastructure of the club, winning the League Cup isn't going to do anything to attract players if you're in the Championship.
Still taking it though.
Yeah, of course. We jumped ahead a little bit. We've glossed over 2 Villa wins in a row in October.
Oh, tell a penny, aren't they?
Norwich 1, Villa 5. A Wesley brace. Villa look a bit more confident, but obviously Norwich are dreadful and finished bottom, and then beat Brighton again in the league this time.
Yeah, just wondered if Wesley had got the hat-trick then, if he'd have scored the penalty and gone, to be challenging Vardy and Aubameyang for the golden boot, wouldn't it?
I think you look at those now and you think maybe this is where Villa start to turn the corner, but it doesn't really. I mean, with the benefit of hindsight, that isn't the case. But you do think. I think that Norwich game was the first game I started working here. I think, and
right.
I wasn't there. And I remember thinking, that was the first game I'd not watched or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is all right going to these other games if Villa are going to win every week. And then we win the following week against Brighton, and I was like, yes, Villa look good all of a sudden. And it's like, oh no, okay, back to reality. Man City are beating us 3-0.
Yeah, I mean, that seemed like important results because we imagine that Norwich and Brighton would both be down there with us. So it did seem like a big breakthrough, and it almost felt like kind of, yes, at last the performances that we've been putting into this point are actually going to be good enough against some teams to get enough points on the board.
Well, yeah, because you're not judging it against the top teams, are you? If you know you're going to be in a relegation battle, you want to be making sure that you're the best of the bad bunch at the bottom. So when you beat Norwich comfortably and then Brighton the following week, you think, oh yeah, fine, we'll probably be okay here. Yeah,
it's the tallest of the 7 dwarf syndrome again, isn't it?
Pretty much.
It's kind of making sure that you, like you say, you're the kind of best of the rest, really.
What do you remember about that Man City game? Because I remember being sent on a shoot we were doing a piece in a pub somewhere in Birmingham, so we were watching it, and it was on TV, and we were wearing the green kit. I remember that weirdly for some reason. And I remember watching it thinking, we're not doing that bad here in the first half. And because we'd won the previous 2, you do think, maybe we'll sneak something. And then Man City turn it on. And
it's like, we've had it several times, haven't we? It's like kind of, I don't know, it's like a crap analogy time again. I think it's like a punctured tyre. And as soon as that goal goes in, all of a sudden
the wheels come off.
Well, not quite, but they certainly it certainly goes flat. And I think it's like that. It's been hard. I think it's hard for a kind of young, inexperienced, newly promoted team that's having a lot of individuals thrown together.
Yeah.
How do you cope with setbacks? Until you've had setbacks, how do you know how you're brave enough to cope?
Yeah.
And I think it's that, and I think we've seen that time and time again where, Villa have either got themselves in front and then defended resolutely, and just when that blow comes, you can just see the energy kind of sap out of them. I think the Man City game was a case in point. I think Villa thought, if we're at our absolute best today and Man City have an off day, we could get a 0-0 here.
Yeah. As soon as you can see it,
that's that plan out the window, isn't it?
Yeah. I think looking ahead, the next 2 fixtures were, I think, the first point. We started the podcast by this point, and I think these were the first 2 games where I kind of thought this is the point where things are starting to go badly wrong. Yeah. Villa versus Liverpool were 1-0 up till the 87th minute against they go on to be the Premier League champions. Do well in both games against them, to be fair. And then Wolves, Jed Steer goes off after 8 minutes or 10 minutes or something. Neelan comes in, and we look absolutely devoid of anything against Wolves. And you kind of think with Liverpool, well, they're top side, they've got great players, they've sucker punched just late on. You kind of can deal with that a little bit. But Wolves, yes, I know they go on to have a good season, but you still think local derby. We had a couple of wins in the previous month. If we're on form here, we can nick something. And to just go up and show absolutely nothing at all was the first time where I was like, okay, I'm now getting a lot more concerned.
Yeah, I think the different games to me, because the Liverpool game, no Jack Grealish that day, and Villa kind of got the noses in front and put a very controlled performance in. And we've been told ahead of the game, and so it proved that Liverpool are this really kind of super efficient steamroller who will just kind of roll over everybody in front of them. We're thinking, well, actually, no, we look really competitive here. The game was notable for it being my daughter's one and only ever Villa game when a squirrel ran across her feet.
Oh, I remember that on the podcast,
in the Trinity Road stand. But yeah, again, it was. I don't know. I feel like I dig out Jonathan Codger too much over this game, but we're 1-0 up. Codger comes on as a sub, and gives the ball away, fails to pick up a man. And Mane, Mane just loves playing against Villa, doesn't he?
Yeah.
So he had to score the winner. Am I right in thinking he was the kind of the boo boy that day as well? Because did he dive or something? I think he'd been booked for a dive or a dodgy tackle or something like that. And he, when you get the kind of Villa of the piece and everybody whistles and boos every time they touch the ball.
Yeah, it rings a bell.
Just had to be him who scored the winner. So that was a kick in the taters. Then
nicely put.
The Wolves game was I thought it was embarrassing. We had the bad luck with Jed Steer being injured in the line of duty just by doing his job and saving a goal.
Yeah, falls into the post, doesn't he?
Yeah,
or side net or something.
And I just thought, I think there's another injury. Wasn't it Matt Target got injured fairly early on? And it was the Neil Taylor Adama Traore show, part 1. And it was just, I remember in the build-up to the game, we've obviously got a couple of Wolves fans amongst the team, and they're talking about doing a combined Villa and Wolves 11.
Yes.
And I hadn't seen enough of Wolves, and I'd got my kind of claret and blue hat on, so I'm kind of putting players, I'm making sure there's a fair share of Villa players in this 11. And then I've looked after the match, and kind of a lot of my mentions is going mad with them all kind of taking the mickey and stuff like that. And I'm thinking, yeah, you're probably right. I probably could have Jack Grealish in that team and 10 Wolves players, to be honest. So we're just outclassed, and that was a kind of real kind of humbling moment that, Wolves are top end Premier League, Aston Villa are bottom end Premier League. And kind of we live kind of black countryside, don't we? So we kind of probably, there's more Villa, but you're still going to encounter more Wolves fans than you are Blues fans. So it was a hard moment to take. That was.
Thing is though, it's a lot like when we say about Dean Smith as a manager, he's very kind of level-headed. He's never too high and he never gets too low. I feel like that embodies what Villa were this season as a club, because we're looking at these two fixtures, Liverpool and Wolverhampton Wanderers. I've never said Wolverhampton Wanderers, but I've written it down like that. Wolves. And you think, this is disastrous. But then the following two games, you beat Newcastle in a massive game where we had to win. Steve Bruce comes back to Villa Park. And then you draw 2-2 against Man United, and you're ahead in that game as well. And you kind of think, well, 1 week we're thinking this is the end of the world, and then 2 weeks later you're going, actually, Villa aren't that bad. And then you follow it up with more defeats. So we're never there was never a period where we're like, we're going to be comfortable, we'll be okay. Or we're absolutely going down. We're always just kind of in this limbo of we're not quite good enough, but we're not terrible either.
I think it's that, just seeing that after Newcastle on your diagram or on your list after the Newcastle game,
document.
15th place. So that sounds comfortable, doesn't it?
I don't know what the points were, but I've put we were 15th after November, which is I think the highest point of the season.
Probably on par for where we probably thought we should be. And thought that our spending spree would have justified being. So and then it all goes a
bit wrong after that.
Yeah, it does.
The Man United one was interesting. I think that was the first away game I went to with work. The Grealish goal.
What was the food like there? Decent
good,
pies, was there?
Good, like a curry pie. Yeah, nice.
Best thing about staying in the Prem.
Yeah, good hot chocolate as well, in like a little Man United cup. But we go ahead in that game. I think Ming scores as well to level it, I think. But you kind of think, Man United aren't the Man United, especially back then. I know they finished top 4 in the end, but they're not the Man United of old. And you do think, could have got something there. And like I say, you just go from thinking, it's the end of the world, Villa are terrible, and then you think, there is signs that there is a decent side there. But then, like you say, you follow it up with 4 defeats in a row, besides a cup game against the Liverpool kids, and it all feels doom and gloom again.
Man United one, my enduring memory of that one is probably I've never really appreciated an overhit Anwar El Ghazi cross quite enough, because Grealish still has something to do with that when he's kind of hit it.
What a goal.
Yeah, and again it was mixed emotions in it, because you're thinking, that's Jack, he's our player, he can do that, but we don't really want you to see it. Listen, back then certainly Man United were a bit shaky, so I think this is a frustrating thing, and we'll touch upon the rest of the season. So many times Villa should have capitalised on, like Everton a couple of weeks ago. Everton didn't have anything to play for. Villa should have gone and won that game. You've done the hard bit, you've got in front, go and win the game. Manchester United on a bit of a downer at that stage of the season. You've got in front, go and win the game. And I'm getting ahead of myself now, but I'm hoping these are the lessons that have been learned. How do Villa become streetwise? How do Villa manage games better?
Yeah, we've certainly seen that in the last 4 games for the most part.
Yeah.
Clean sheet against Arsenal, for example.
Yeah, no, well, exactly. But I think, to me, and we'll get onto this in subsequent podcasts, is you do need more leaders to emerge from what's gone on this year.
Yeah.
And you do need to recruit more leaders. Now, that probably comes at a price because you're probably talking about established Premier League players. But we'll get to that later.
Yes, we will. We'll skip ahead from the Liverpool Cup game because, nice moment, but it's against the kids, 5-0, whatever. There's three fixtures there in the Premier League that at the time we looked at, and because I think we'd dropped back down into the relegation zone again after the Leicester defeat, I would have thought. You look at Southampton, Norwich and Watford, there's 3 games where you think there's 3 winnable games there, and Villa come out with 1 win out of 3. And that's, again, a point where you seriously think we're in trouble here because Watford beat us 3-0.
Yeah, I mean,
I've kind of forgotten about.
Just briefly, I mean, the home defeat to Leicester was a wonder for me because I think I'm right in saying that Villa went 1-0 down and got back level, I think, or got back to 2-1. I think anyway. There was a moment in that game where you thought, okay, this is game on again.
And then they turned it on, didn't they? And Vardy outpaced Engels or something, was it?
Yeah. It was just, it was the moment where Tyrone Mings was a bit too brave, stayed uninjured.
Yes.
Against the worst opponent, worst centre forward to be injured against, and just that game plus Sheffield United away was newly promoted Sheffield United. We're all looking, isn't Chris Wilder brilliant? Why can't we do the same as what Chris Wilder's done? And they absolutely, they kind of took us apart that day. And then you're approaching Christmas time then, and it's.
I think Watford was Boxing Day, wasn't it? I think, or the game before New Year's Day.
Yeah, I think it was.
Norwich was Boxing Day. Watford was like the 28th or whatever that second fixture is.
Yeah, so the Southampton one, first of all, McGinn. I mean, it's interesting because McGinn, to me, was the player of the first couple of months of the season. I think even prior to his injury, he was. We were saying, he's beginning to fade a little bit. Shall we rest him? Shall we bring him out the firing line? And then he goes John McGinning into that challenge. And you think, oh, no. And we've over time, we've thought, actually, we'd rather have a kind of a 75% fit John McGinn.
Yeah.
It was just horrible because Southampton, that kick-started Southampton's revival. They didn't really look back after then, and we did. We were really really panicky then, and the Watford game, the 1-0 win against Watford was a bit of a kind of war of attrition.
Norwich.
Sorry, Norwich. The Watford win comes a bit further. The win over Norwich was a war of attrition, but Villa got over the line.
Yeah. Thank God.
I think we were saying, weren't we, at that stage? They need to get 7 points from these 3 games.
Yeah.
Got 3.
That Watford one was poor.
Yeah, it was terrible.
I think that was Pearson's first game. He'd just gone there.
Yeah, the Nigel Pearson effect was beginning to take hold from that game. I remember being down in Watford, not for that game, to go and see Harry Potter World with my family. And
nice Christmas gift.
I bought some wand or something in the gift shop at the end, and it was like, I don't know, 30 quid's worth of tat or something like that. And my son was with me, and he got a Villa top on, and the kid behind the counter was a Watford fan. And I was like, oh God, I don't need this. Almost need to kind of Expelliarmus him with the wand.
Turn him into a toad.
So that was it, yeah. So it was just grim. It was just grim. It kind of ruined Christmas and New Year, didn't it?
A quick mention for the January business then. We bring in Samatta because we need a striker because Wesley gets injured on New Year's Day. Louis Barry signs, Boya Baston signs, Drinkwater on loan, and Pepe Reina. One of those 5 has been decent in Reina.
Yeah, and I know we're going to touch upon, in subsequent podcasts of kind of what's done for Suso, but I think that January lack of activity is probably going to be a big one. Now, listen, Villa's plans were changed at very last minute because of those 2 injuries. at Burnley, with obviously Tom Heaton and Wesley both being stretchered off with serious knee injuries. So that's fine. I can understand why Villa were kind of playing catch up, but there should be contingency plans and what happens in this eventuality and stuff like that. So I wouldn't want to kind of let them off the hook too much as a result of that. Drinkwater was a strange one, because I think a fit Danny Drinkwater probably could still offer something, but for him to have to kind of try to play his way into match fitness in the middle of a relegation battle,
and we'd just beaten Burnley and he's not playing for them, and we're thinking, well, if he can't get in their team, he's not going to play for us, is he?
And who's he replacing as well? You know, the midfielder that we've lost is kind of this high energy kind of, you know, this box to box man, and Drinkwater was never going to be that. So that was you know, that was a bit of a kind of a no-no. Then we joked, didn't we, that, you know, that deadline day we were all a bit delirious, working in the office, kind of getting the pizzas in, all working 15-hour shifts. I know we've got to be lucky to do the jobs that we do, so I'm not late on too thick. But we joked, didn't we, did a podcast at about midnight or something, saying maybe he's the saviour.
What a silly comment that is.
And then we're seeing all the kind of Swansea fan reactions saying, okay, good luck with that.
They told us.
Yeah, we were warned. 18 minutes later, he wasn't the saviour after all. Those Aston Villa puns didn't amount to much. Who else?
Well, like we said, we'll come on to the transfer stuff in the second podcast that we do, because ironically, I think that was our most successful month in terms of results, because of the two cup games. We got the cup semi-final against Leicester, which obviously we drew the first leg, beat them in the second leg. Beat Burnley on New Year's Day, and then the massive one in there is beating Watford in the last seconds of the game, with Conser's effort deflecting off Mings' ankle or whatever it was. Gloss over the 6-1 defeat by Man City. Because you kind of think, as much as bad as that is, it's still Man City, and we've managed to get the points in the games that you expect to.
Well, the Watford game felt significant, didn't it? Because we had, in our previous home game, we had been given an absolute battering. I'll never forget that Villa trying to pass the ball out from the back, and then picking out Sergio Aguero. Courtney House picks out Sergio Aguero, and then so the Watford game was the next time we were back at Villa Park, and Troy Deeney had scored. It felt horrible. They were, Ben Foster was forgetting how his mother had told him to tie his laces back as a young boy. Martin Atkinson wasn't keeping a grip properly on their time wasting, and it just felt so sweet for that last minute goal. And ultimately, I know we could say any of the points that Villa picked up along the way were the ones that kept them up, but ultimately Villa got 3 points, denied Watford any points on that evening. That's kept Villa above Watford and kept Villa in the Premier League. And I think you tweeted, didn't you, the other week, the other day, the conflicting moods between Conser when he thinks he scored that winner, and Conser when he's told by a brutal Sky reporter that no, it's Tyrone Mings. That kind of sums up the kind of gamut of emotions, doesn't it, this year?
The cup game as well. That was a big moment again, when you think this is a turning point for Villa. We've got a point away at Brighton after being battered by Man City. We beat Watford. We get to the cup final with another last-minute goal from Trezeguet, our friend of the show. We end the month in 16th place, and you think, right, Villa are getting somewhere here, and then you go and lose to Bournemouth again.
But even then, though, I think I probably called it. You can probably go back through the archives and through the tapes. If Villa score, it's my son's first season ticket, or first half a season ticket as it transpired this year. And I said to him then, because I'm a cynical old man, I said, Villa have scored a last-minute winner against Leicester to get into a cup final. Scored a last-minute winner against a relegation rival to kind of try and kind of lift our heads above water. This is going to come at a cost. There's going to be an almighty price to pay for this. And
a winless February is what we got.
That's what we got. I kind of called it. Mr. Negativity here has nailed it.
I mean, that's a real kick of a month there when you look back on it. I mean, my memory's a bit more fresh now. We get a bit more recent. This feels like this season now. The closer we get. Bournemouth giving them 6 points is, I mean, in the end, didn't matter, but ridiculous and almost cost us. The Tottenham game, I wasn't there through illness. I was watching on TV. that was that week, and Engels just put your foot through it, and we get a nice point there against Tottenham. And then again, Southampton.
We played well as well.
Yeah, we did
when we
play
played well, we conceded 3 goals.
And that was the kind of point back then. It was like, well, we're trying our best. Like you can't fault what we're trying to do here, and it's still not enough.
Yeah.
We're losing 3 out of 3 in February.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and of course that was the last home game. Well, that was the last home game we saw Villa play. That Tottenham game, which is ridiculous, really. You know, my last memory of being
well, mine was the cup game. So I was ill. Yeah, I've not seen a Villa game in a Villa Park since January.
Yeah. So for my enduring memory to be that ball slipping through Engels' foot, it's bleak. And then my memory of the Southampton game, it's that breakaway goal at the end, isn't it, when Gilbert's kind of running in his own channel and not getting across to close down.
We can laugh about it now, thankfully, but there's been some poor moments in the season, and you know, you don't look back at it and go, God, you know, when you look at teams, you think, oh, they underperformed that season, or they've got a squad better than where they finished. We very much deserve to be finished 17th at best.
By a point, yeah. I think a point flatters us. We should have probably stayed up on goal difference.
I tweeted at one point, probably after Man United, maybe. It might have been when Watford and who was it? Watford and West Ham played each other. I think it was after then. I watched some of that and I tweeted, all 4 of us, including Norwich, we all deserve to go down here. Like, we're all awful. It's just that one of us is going to be slightly less awful than the rest. And I'm very much thankful it was Villa that was...
So sweet, isn't it? To be not quite as crap. Just to be marginally less crap than everybody else.
That is it. And we've said it a few times, haven't we? If we were just slightly better than awful, we'd have been comfortable in 13th or 14th, but we just about got above the line.
Boring that had been there.
Oh, in hindsight, yes, but my heart could not take it. Cup final was March. Was the first of the month, I think. We drop into the bottom 3 that weekend because of we missed a fixture. Not going to kind of go into the game too much. It was a nice day out. We all had a good time. We gave Man City a decent go. We didn't lose 6-1 like we did in the league fixture. Most people would have expected Man City to win that anyway, and we kind of come out of that feeling like the boys done us proud there. They've done okay. Samatta scores a diving header. You think...
I thought we played well. You know,
maybe there's something decent there. Nakamba played well in that game.
Came very close to grabbing an equaliser late on. That's the last time. You know, Ashley's been the one who's been lucky enough to be at the stadiums representing us. So that's the last time I've seen Villa in the flesh. Not a bad memory, to be honest.
It's all right.
Didn't know then when I was battling to find our way back to the coach park that I wouldn't see Villa again for another 3 or 4 months. But yeah, I think, listen, it sounds a little bit lame to say they did us proud and it was a day out, but it probably has to be filed away as that now, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You know, we've been lucky enough to go to Wembley lots of times during a bleak period for Aston Villa, so make sure next time we go there, it's not in a playoff final, it's in a proper final. and next time we go there, we win. Yeah. And hopefully we'll all be allowed in there to watch it as well.
That'd be lovely, wouldn't it? Not too much to ask for. But yeah, the last game before the coronavirus pandemic hit was the embarrassing 4-0 defeat away at Leicester on the Monday night, I think. So again, we dropped down to the bottom of 3, then we play last after everyone as well, get humiliated on TV. Pepe Reina goes walkabout, and in the podcast after that I go, Pepe Reina should never play for Villa again. So hold my hands up, I'm glad that he contributed to our survival in the end. But back then I was thinking, for an experienced goalkeeper, what are you doing, mate? It's embarrassing.
Yeah, it just, like I say, epitomised Villa's capacity to kind of shoot themselves in the foot, really. You know, in hindsight, that game should never have been played.
Yeah.
Probably genuinely should never have been played, to be honest, because by then the country should have been in lockdown. And, you know, I think it was ridiculous, the fact that they were still planning to play the following weekend's fixtures. Yeah. And if that
would have been Sheffield United, wouldn't it, for us?
Chelsea, I think we played.
Oh, yes,
Chelsea.
Right, yeah.
And if
Sheffield United, we missed.
If Arteta hadn't got coronavirus on that Thursday night.
Yeah, we'd have all been at Villa Park. Yeah, mad. Let's not get political, though.
Don't think people come here for that.
No, I don't think so. I think people come away to get away from that. So yeah, obviously we've gone into the pandemic in depth over during while we were doing it. We tried to podcast the best we could, but there's nothing to talk about for 3 months, which was
just what you need to do now is just cut in a little bit, editing a little piece here, just kind of I don't know, Tyrone Mings on an exercise bike or something, or Ali Samatta on a rowing machine.
But we go into that 19th, And there's the whole debate of, does football even come back? Do we avoid the season? What happens when we come back? So we've got a game in hand, and obviously there were so many different talking points. But when football does come back, we do look different. And even though for the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games of the 10 we don't even win, and we look still doomed, we are still kind of thinking there is a glimmer of hope somewhere in there. And at the time, that felt a little bit deluded almost, to think, oh well.
Yeah, I'm not sure I shared your glimmer of hope.
But when we're looking at it going, oh, we've only lost 1-0 to Wolves, that might be important because of goal difference.
Yeah,
it was a bit like we are clinging
being young
here.
and naive, that is, I'm thinking.
But in the end, I was right.
Don't get too used to it. I'm probably more man in the pub here. I'm thinking Villa should have gone out harder to have gone and won that Sheffield United game.
Yeah.
And to fluke the lead against Chelsea probably should have been a little bit more. I don't know. I just thought got the goal, sat back, invited trouble. Thought played quite well at Newcastle. I thought Wolves just showed a lack of ambition again. I suppose we'd better talk about Hawkeye, hadn't we?
Yeah. I love this debate. I've seen a few things come out over the last couple of days of petitions to have Bournemouth versus Villa relegation playoff, and for Bournemouth to be suing Hawkeye.
Well, it's funny you say that, because actually some talk about that today.
But it's not going to happen though, is it?
Well, if people want to visit Birmingham Live,
Clang.
There's a big interview with a football lawyer who talks about.
So what is the latest then? Is that a serious possibility, by the way?
I think there's a possibility that they could at least seek to do that. Bournemouth and Watford, from the bits I read in this massive kind of lengthy transcript full of legalese from the lawyer, the prospects of it actually coming to pass look quite grim,
right? Okay,
quite bleak. So. It's Villa, isn't it? We can't just have this kind of period of 6 weeks of rest and relaxation. There's got to be some kind of spanner in the works.
We joked about it in the post West Ham podcast, I think, about a VAR decision. You think you want to kick off as soon as, so they can't. I want the season to start now before they say, "Oh, actually, by the way, Villa, you've been relegated because of a legal dispute." That's not going to happen, I don't think.
I think it opens up a massive can of worms with kind of claims and counter-claims, and then you've got the kind of VAR kind of discrepancies, and fingers crossed there's not to be a massive sting in this tail.
I don't think there will be. I think, like you say, it opens up a massive can of worms, because then surely Villa go back and say, well, what about our point at QPR?
Well, I'm thinking surely Villa have got kind of more money for their legal bills anyway, because they're a Premier League team.
True.
Other than Bournemouth, they've got to kind of spend their parachute payment.
Yeah. And what about the penalty that we owed against Arsenal as well?
Yeah.
To try and equalise? How far do you go back and say, oh, actually, by the way, this was wrong, can we go back? Because they've admitted wrong decisions throughout the season. Yeah. And yes, the Hawkeye thing was a goal for Sheffield United. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, it wasn't over the line. We very much got away with one, but I think if it was on the other foot and maybe we'd gone down in Bournemouth's position, we would be fuming about it.
That's it. We'd all be looking through our law books then, wouldn't we?
It swings and roundabouts, isn't it, in football? I don't think you can... can you... I don't know. I don't know. It is a minefield.
Let's not draw attention to it. Let's not talk about it. Let's move on. The only thing I would say about it,
it's just because you've played a 38 game season, you can't just say that was the point, because you could say, well, we hit the post in this game if that had gone in.
If Villa would have conceded that goal in that game, it had been given, then it would have affected how Villa approached the rest of the game.
Yeah.
So Villa could have thought, crank Villa up to a level. I'm probably wishful thinking here, but crank Villa up to a level. We think, not only did they get a draw out of it, but they kicked on and got a win. So
that's the difference with the argument with the Palace thing for us. When people say, "Oh yeah, but you had the Palace VAR thing," that was the last seconds of the game. Yeah. The ball went in the net. That should have stood, and that would have been a point game because Palace had no reply. Yeah. As you say, with Sheffield United, I don't know what minute it was in, but it was in the first half, wasn't it?
Towards the end of the first half.
There's no reason why Villa don't come out in the second half and win 2-1, and we survived by 3 points.
The thing that's most amused me about Hawkeye is that some of my mates who are non-Villa and some of my kind of people who have atted me on Twitter, kind of anything that I put about Villa survival, it's Hawkeye this, Hawkeye that. You're thinking,
I quite like it, to be honest.
I don't mind it, but just to think you're clutching.
Yeah.
if Ørjan Nyland had been as good at clutching the ball as some of these non-Villa people are at clutching for straws, then it wouldn't have been a debating point anyway. But
so, you know when Jack Grealish talks in interviews about he likes being kicked, he likes being the villain, he likes being booed, it kind of rolls him up and gets him going. I quite like that we're the villain in this scenario. I don't
become so hated though. Is it because we have got delusions of grandeur and we also give it big all the time?
There'll be opposition fans watching this now spewing over the fact that we're kind of so smug about this situation, but I don't care. It is what it is, isn't it? I quite like it being the kind of everyone hates us, because all the local sides hate us anyway, but now you've got Brighton fans or whatever chipping in going, Villa should be ready. I don't care, mate. I don't care.
Leeds hate us now. Bournemouth hate us because of relegation.
I quite like it.
It is quite amusing, I must admit.
So we've talked a lot about the Project Restart stuff because it's been games in such short succession. These things happened literally less than 2 weeks ago. So kind of rather than going in each game by game,
just rattle through it. Kind of Wolves defeat, bad. Liverpool defeat, bad. Manchester United defeat, bad.
But that's the one. Villa go 7 points behind before they play Crystal Palace, and that's the moment where we sit on Facebook Live and go, I think Villa are done here. Was that the point where you thought, because that was the first time I sat and actually thought, right, we are doomed now, there's no way we get out of it, before people are going, losing to Chelsea, we're down now? Like that, when did you kind of think it's all over?
I think the Man United one was it. You can imagine if you were like cutting it for a film, it would be the kind of breakup scene, wouldn't it? Where you'd have the kind of people crying and on their own, and you'd have kind of moody music, almost like accepting the
before they have their epiphany and go on to win.
Except that Villa were breaking up with the Premier League that night, and I think it was. Again, it was one of those where Villa started quite brightly, hit the post, looked like they were actually up for the game. And then
the penalty decision,
the receiving end of the flakiest penalty decision, which has changed that game.
Yeah.
And that 7 points, like we said at the time, it seemed like Mount Everest, didn't it? They hadn't won in probably 10. I think it was 10 games they hadn't won in by then. So the prospect of kind of trying to overturn that 7 point deficit was just, nice one.
When I think at one point we were talking about if we stay up, would it be a bigger achievement than getting to the Premier League in the first place? And I said no then, because with the I think it was before that point, the Man United game, I was saying, well, for Villa to get promoted, they had to win 10 in a row. There was no choice to get to the playoffs. They had to do that. Yeah. Winning 8 in a row wouldn't have been enough. They had to do the 10. They had to win in the semi-final and get to the final and win that. They've got no choice. So to get promoted was the bigger achievement. But then Villa get to a point in the Premier League season where they have to get 7 points, 8 points, 3, 6, 7, 8 points. Terrible. Villa have to get at least 8 points to stay up, to overturn this 7 point gap. And you're thinking, well, they're not going to do it. So the fact that it got to that stage again where Villa have to do that as the bare minimum and they still managed to do it, it is the bigger achievement now to stay in the Premier League than it was to get there. I
don't see one outweighs the other. I think both, under difficult circumstances, and again we'll talk at length about this in future, but Dean Smith has inherited a coach in John Terry, who was thrust upon him, and a sporting director, a collection of players. We don't know how involved he was.
We don't know which one
in all the recruitment. A kind of a fan base that is desperate for something, for anything, to pick it up off the floor, and somehow between him and the set of players and the coaching staff, they've managed to pull both things out of the bag.
Yeah.
So I find it difficult to separate them. I take them as a whole, really, to get Villa up to the Premier League and keep them in the Premier League, given all these kind of factors that have been swirling around. I think Dean Smith can, and I saw the picture that Jack posted with them both beaming their heads off the other day. I think the pair of them and Villa collectively can be very smug and very proud that they've been able to kind of achieve all that against the odds. Yeah.
So in contrast to my previous question, when did you finally realise or believe that Villa were safe?
Probably when they were having that group huddle on the pitch and all getting updates from the Emirates from the Arsenal game.
I loved how they were like, don't celebrate yet, when Watford that scored 2 goals away at Arsenal in like a minute, and it's like, oh come on, we are safe, we can celebrate now.
Yeah, but I think like, no, wait, just wait. Better to be safe than sorry, aren't you? I mean, just we won't dwell on it because we've spoken about it a lot already, but so very Villa to get that goal. Give yourself that breathing space, and no sooner have you stopped hugging, the ball's deflected over Pepe Reina.
I think it was 100 seconds I saw somewhere.
So that's why I allowed myself and my son to celebrate Jack's goal. That's why I would not allow us to celebrate until the final whistle.
I gave it a bit of a fist bump when we scored, but it's kind of stay calm.
Yeah,
pop out a tweet. Professional head remains on. I think it was just before the final whistle, but only literally like 30 seconds before. I was like, nah, they're not gonna score now. Like when we got the ball down in the corner, McGinn's kind of putting his backside into people. It's like, they're not going to get the ball from here and go up and score. Like that's going to take 30 seconds. Like that's surely not going to happen. So I was like, yeah, we've done it. And then the final whistle goes, and I was like, well, Watford aren't going to score, so yeah, celebrate.
Yeah.
If Watford only needed 1, yes, wait till the very last seconds, but they needed 2, so happy days. Against all the odds.
Still all a bit surreal, isn't it?
The stat at one point that we were a 7% chance of staying up, you'd have been stupid to look at that and go, well, I still believe. Yeah. I still believe. I think that was after Man United. We were 7% chance of staying up.
No, listen, my name's Matt Kendrick and I'm a cynic. I'm a confessed cynic, so I'm sorry. I doubted you.
I'm glad we can sit here and have humble pie and look at embarrassing clips from after the Man United game when we're all down and depressed and talking about championship planning, because I'm more than happy to be proved wrong and look like an idiot, and the people in the comments going, you've got to stay with it till the final day, that those 1% of people out there that were saying you still got to give it a go. I'm very much happy to sit here and look stupid, but we didn't give up. Well, I didn't give up until Man United. Some people gave up well before then. So there's not going to be a single Villa fan out there now thinking, oh, I'm unhappy that Villa didn't prove me wrong. It's just, it does seem it was the impossible job, wasn't it? The great escape, whatever cliche you want to throw at it. We needed 7 points to close that gap, to even get it down to goal difference. The fact that we get 8 and stay up 1 point on the last day is peak Villa.
Just yearning for a really boring March to 12th or 13th. Probably getting ahead of myself. Probably March to 16th would be nice.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have like 42 points in like April or something, and just like, last month we're fine here. It'd be lovely, that would.
Oh, imagine.
Thing is, I was looking at some stats of Villa post lockdown and pre lockdown, and the main ones you look at are, well, the main ones I've looked at to kind of make this point are goals scored and goals conceded. So before lockdown, obviously we played 28 games, we only played 10 post, but we score 1.2 goals a game on average before lockdown, and we're conceding 1.9. So pretty much what we said all season. If Villa are going to win a game, they've got to score at least 2. Post lockdown, we're conceding 1.1 goals a game, a lot more tighter, but we are scoring less. But that probably factors down to playing less games as well, and the kind of the environment of how we're playing in football as well. So I kind of tried to work out with some very basic maths, which isn't how football is played at all. What would Villa's season look like post lockdown form for that full 38 game season? We'd score 26 goals, which is very low, but we'd only concede 41, which is 20 less, I think, than what we actually conceded in real life. We conceded 67 in the actual season. We only scored 41, which is a low total, really. So I kind of can take from that as a contrived point is that we're not a million miles away from being that comfortable kind of 14th, 15th place. I've taken Southampton as the example. They've got Danny Ings, right? He's their main goal scorer. They only scored 51, 10 goals more than Villa. So goal scoring isn't a mega issue. If you can find a goal scorer that will score 15 goals.
Villa's goal scoring stacked up pretty well against most of the clubs in the bottom half of the half of the table.
So you need a goal scorer.
This is the frustrating thing, though, isn't it? Kind of 2 defenders as your coaching staff. Cheap goals given away. Villa's 23 million pound centre forward got injured, so you'd have backed him, even though he's not the most prolific. You'd have backed him to score
2 more goals than Samatta scored.
Well, yeah, you would have. These glimmers there.
I mean, it's a very basic way to break it down, but Southampton I think they finished 12th. And had, I've not written it down, I don't think. They got 17 more points than Villa. So what's the maths on that? 52?
Yeah.
So Southampton got 52 points. They only scored 10 more goals than us. They conceded 7 less. Southampton still conceded 60.
Yeah.
So when you look at those very basic stats, I know it isn't as easy to say, score these goals, see these, and this is where you'll finish. But we've shown that we've tightened up at the back. If we can add a goal scorer and continue with what we've seen since lockdown, there's no reason to suggest that Villa can't be a much improved side next year.
Mid-table mediocrity isn't that far away.
It doesn't take a lot, does it? Because the standard
is just
isn't
fine
great.
Margins.
And as much as we're saying it's very frustrating that Villa were, not frustrating, but we were so awful that we almost got relegated. We almost were not quite good enough to be safe either. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we're not a million miles away from 14th place and being comfortable, but we also weren't a million miles away from going down on the last day either.
Yeah, which makes, and again, I won't go into this in much detail, but it makes the recruitment so important because you're talking about Villa having to wheel and deal to just improve in small increments, really. You might have to spend big just to kind of enter that Southampton level twilight zone.
You're 15 points away from a 50-point season.
Yeah.
That's 5 more wins. It's not turning those draws into wins, holding on to games when you go ahead against Tottenham and Arsenal, having decisions go your way.
Yeah.
You're not a million miles away from being a steady Premier League team that shouldn't be having to look over their shoulder at the back end of a season. But if football was that simple, then I've managed to put these stats together in half an hour.
Is this a pitch for Suso's job?
if they want me, I've got no names or anything for who we need to sign. I'm just looking at the pure figures, and I know, like I say, it's not that easy just to work it out and go do this and you'll be fine. But what I'm trying to say is we're not a million miles away from being somewhere.
Be a little bit better and it'll be more comfortable, is what you're saying.
Yeah. Be a little bit worse and you'll go down.
Okay, yeah, let's forget that bit.
A couple of quick fire questions we'll try and rattle through to round this podcast off. First one came in, Dean Smith, manager of the season, ?
Not for me. He's definitely Aston Villa's manager of the season, and thank goodness that the board kind of kept their nerve and for the running. I think he's probably got to go to Jurgen Klopp, given what he's delivered there after a 30-year absence. It's interesting. Are people saying Dean Smith should be manager of the season for the survival act, the rescue act that he's pulled off, which in itself, perhaps he's manager of lockdown.
Yeah.
But you'd probably take it away from manager of the season because the fact that Villa needed that rescue act in the first place.
Yeah.
I think he's a lovely fella. I think he's proof that good guys can win. He's one of us, which does make the successes all the sweeter. But hopefully manager of next season.
Yeah, I think Klopp's the obvious answer. Chris Wilder as a secondary shout to do what he did with Sheffield United. I think, like you said, for him to fully deserves plaudits for keeping Villa up from where we were, but Dean Smith had a hand in Villa being in that position in the first place. So over the course of a season, yes, he's done a great job to get us out of it, but you can't have him as a manager of the season throughout the entire league. But like I said, to kind of even manage Villa in difficult circumstances, losing his dad throughout lockdown, managing a football team and 25 different players throughout a global pandemic, I imagine is difficult as well. So to kind of come back, make Villa more solid and do the impossible by keeping Villa in the league in the end is a massive achievement. So manager of the season, part 2.
Yeah.
Manager of the first half of the season, no.
Like I say, manager of lockdown, he's the question mark about Dean Smith is he a Premier League manager? Can he do it in the Premier League? It's been a very, very tense way of proving himself, but he's done it in the Premier League for a year. He's an established Premier League manager for a year. Let's see what he can do next.
Yes, agreed. Best goal of the season? I've got 2 here.
Go on, let me have yours
So
first.
for 2 different reasons, kind of aesthetically and kind of my favourite looking goal, one that looked good on Match of the Day, Jack Grealish against Man United, Old Trafford, bending the ball around De Gea. One I was there for as well, which is also a nice added bonus. But kind of most important is the Konsa/Mings one against Watford. Last minute, a fleeting win during the season against one of your relegation rivals. Just a crazy moment and an important goal in the end as well. I'd give it to Konsa, but I think it officially went to Mings in the end. But yeah, the most important, that one. But kind of my favourite was Jack against Man United.
Yeah, I think mine's a bit of a kind of a random one, really. I'm going to go for...
That's not like you.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? I'm going to go for Ali Samatta in the...
Bournemouth.
Not that one, though, funnily enough. I'm going to go for the one in the cup final against Man City. I'm a sucker for a diving header.
Yeah.
I thought it was very, very easy on the eye. Great ball in. I can't get my words out.
So excited.
Flung himself at the ball. Covered you in flob, as I said that.
Yeah, take that microphone home with you.
Yeah, you might well be in a minute with the Dettol wipes. Yeah, just a beautiful goal, easy on the eye. And it just, at that moment, thought, oh, actually, we're not going to get turned over in a cup final 6-0. We're going to be competitive. We've got a chance. It proved the point that he is good in the air, even if his headers have to be kind of that high for him to execute them. So that one, like I say, it's a bit random, but you stole the Grealish one.
I've also given you no prep to...
No, well, it's you know what my memory's like as well. I'll go with Grealish's goal against West Ham as the...
I couldn't even remember what it was then.
As the important one, because, cometh the hour, cometh the man. Villa would probably have still managed to get that goal in the other end. They've probably still found a way of fluking the ball into, getting the ball in their own net. So,
can you imagine if that's the way it ended in the alternative reality that Villa lose 1-0 and it comes off Jack Grealish's...
Via Jack Grealish deflection, yeah. So ultimately it's the goal that kept Villa up.
In a roundabout
so go for
way.
that. Go for that in terms of importance, and let's hope we see lots more Jack Grealish goals in a Villa shirt in the right net.
We'll talk about that in the next podcast that we do in more depth. Player of the season, is this an obvious answer just to say Jack?
It's got to be him, hasn't it?
He's got in the Who Scored team of the season this year for the Premier League.
Yeah,
so it has to be Villa's player of the season by default.
We've said that Douglas Luiz is probably player of lockdown for Aston Villa with the way he's come roaring back, but I don't think it's an exaggeration. We were joking early in the season about kind of how his shoulders must hurt because he's carrying that team. Several occasions pre-lockdown where you've almost seen his teammates abdicate responsibility and said, give it Jack. Jack will make it happen. Give it Jack. Jack will rescue us. And on many occasions he took that responsibility on. I think he's grown up a lot. I think he's become a real kind of captain figure and a real leader. Never mind his own ability and his own energy and his own personality, just the fact that a young man can kind of carry the weight of expectation of a football club on his shoulders when it means so much to him. Nailed on, any 1, 2 and 3 for me.
Yeah, fair. Nothing else to add. The last question, I don't know whether you'll have a specific for this, but I kind of wanted to use this as a kind of a thank you, everybody. It's a favourite podcast episode.
I thought you could say favourite podcast.
Well, just generally. Yeah. Peter Crouch podcast is excellent.
Probably something true crime related.
Can you think of an episode? Is that too... Am I putting you on the spot too much there? Because they're very much of a muchness, aren't they, that we talk nonsense for an hour and Villa have probably lost.
I'll probably go for one of the ones we've done in lockdown, one of the interview ones.
Okay, yeah.
To be honest, I know that's a different vibe to me and you chatting nonsense, but the All Brighton one, I really, really loved. Probably it was a Friday night, and we've got a kind of a current Premier League player and Premier League winner was kind enough to give us his time.
It was a long interview as well.
We took full advantage of that time. We got him on for longer than an hour, and he was brilliant. He kind of told us, very honest, very open, very funny, very articulate. Lovely fella. Just being honoured enough to kind of invite him into our living rooms or whatever, or wherever we filmed it, and do it like that. And then for you to just take the absolute kind of liberty of saying, Mark, can you hang on a minute? I just want to come back. I've got a fancy dress party that I'm late to. Dress up as Jesus, and him to take it in good spirit. So I think it encapsulated what we're about. We like telling good Aston Villa stories. When we're lucky enough to get superstars on to join us, brilliant. But even then, we don't want it to be too... we'll touch on serious topics, but we'll have a laugh along the way. And I think that kind of summed up that one for me.
I like that you've gone down the route of an actual serious football interview, because I was just thinking about the ones that we've done rather than kind of... as much as they're our podcast, it's an interview, isn't it, rather than a kind of a chat about football. I think in terms of an actual answer, because I'd not thought about this before myself, the cup final one, when we had the Adam Wright came on and you kind of looked at the memories of 94, 96, and we had the tickets and the programmes. I think that was a strong episode. One for me as a kind of I got to enjoy it as the audience, as a younger viewer that I wasn't alive, or I was alive but I wasn't there for those games. Was a good one. But I kind of wanted to include this question as kind of a general kind of thank you for supporting the stuff that we're doing over the course of a season. We've now completed a season with Aston Villa in the Premier League. We didn't cover the whole thing, so we didn't start till late, but the second half. I'm thankful that people have stuck with it in the way that I have. I'm thankful for the support that we've got on the numbers that we get. We're getting kind of 7,000 listens plus at the moment, which is our highest
Probably
figures.
more to Villa winning than us.
Maybe, yeah.
Well, the
Man United episode did well.
Drew at the weekend, didn't they?
Yeah, true. But yeah, considering
maybe it is us.
Yeah, exactly. But I had a few messages saying things like, we did the live kit one a couple of days ago when this comes out, and a couple of people messaged me saying how funny it was, and I was kind of, to us that was a kind of bit of a throwaway jokey episode, kind of here's half an hour chat, kind of we'll film it and be done with it. But you can a few people said they enjoy the podcast because you can kind of get analysis from Sky or BBC or other Villa podcasts or wherever it is, but they can come to ours and kind of zone out a little bit, which I do take as a compliment. I know it doesn't sound it the way I've worded it, but they can kind of just kind of turn it on, join in and kind of relate to us in a way that we're not here kind of to offer stats and analysis and figures and
that's fine. I don't mind being the Claret and Blue court jester.
Yeah, we want to
feel it, don't we?
We want to be serious when we have to be. If Villa have gone down, and this episode itself has been more serious than usual, given its fleeting moments, and the next one we do will be the same. But we still want to have a laugh with it. We're talking about Villa for our job. We're not going to take ourselves too seriously.
Yeah, I'm in my 20th year of journalism, and you must be thinking, yeah, Matt, of course you started journalism as a 5-year-old. I'm in my 20th year of journalism, and in the early days, I used to have to write about car boot sales, cats stuck up trees, court cases.
Do you remember the one when the guy had the glass pane falling on
Exactly,
him? Yeah. That great story.
All these kind of things. So you can't really laugh and joke about a lot of those things. We're in a job now where we're lucky enough to write about Aston Villa. If you can't laugh and joke about Aston Villa, you genuinely would kind of go into meltdown. Yeah. So just reflect a little bit of that. The one thing that I wanted to say, and this is probably something that should have been saved for a planning meeting, I would love us, once the new season starts and we're back up and running properly and there's a bit of normality to the world, I'd love us to have a live event and to bring people in to get a former player in as a guest, to have a laugh with the people who have supported us. I might even get a drink in for a few people.
Oh, nice. That'd be a rarity for you to get a drink from me, let alone anyone else. It's nice because we kind of had, this is going off topic a little bit, but we didn't have any massive expectations for how this would go when we first started it, and I think the numbers that we get and that we have got to be, I think it's 3,500 subscribers on YouTube. We're kind of a bit like Villa's promotion plans. We're a year ahead of schedule. We're doing better at this point than I expected us to be. So kind of doing the podcast hopefully for Villa's season next year in the Premier League again, and Villa being a bit better would be nice as well. I'm all for it. I'm excited.
Let's get it on.
All right, steady on. Where's that plastic sheet?
Oh God,
should we call it a day?
I think so, mate. Yeah, I've got to do what usual and dash for another meeting.
It's a bit serious, isn't it? This football journalism life.
I'm telling you,
got meetings now. We'll be doing a second episode. We wanted it to be kind of. We thought about doing it as one long bumper episode, but we've kind of run out of time. But we want to do a season debrief, which you've just seen, and we're going to kind of look ahead to how Villa plan for next season in the Premier League. So, Jack Grealish, what's happening? What's happening with Suso? Who do we sign? What do we need to do? What's happening with the coaching staff? There's a lot of questions to be asked, and we'll try our best to answer them in our usual,
serious analysis way,
our usual man down the pub way. So that'll be out probably tomorrow as you're watching this. If you're watching this in the future, then they're both out now already, and you can do what you want. So yeah, thanks for coming down. It's been a nice hour talking to another human being in the flesh.
Thanks for having me. I shall wash my hands at the door.
No connection issues, no weird sound. It's nice to do this properly for a change. So yeah, should we do it again in a few hours' time?
Yeah, sounds like a plan.
Okie doke. Right, thank you very much everyone for tuning in. We'll be back soon, and up the Villa.
Up the Villa. Thank you for listening to Claret and Blue, an Aston Villa podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, then please let us know. We love hearing your feedback. We'll be back soon with another episode. Until then, up the Villa.